everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Theme Park Sandbox. My name is Drew.
My name is Aaron.
And we are really excited. This is kind of like an impromptu episode for us because we just got some really, really amazing news. Disneyland is expanding.
Yeah.
What the heck? After all of these episodes about you and I talking about how Florida has so much more space, Disneyland has to work within the realm of the railroad. I mean, poof, just like that. They're like, we're expanding.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out of our 32 subscribers. Josh Damaro is certainly one of them. So thank you for watching. Thank you for taking our advice. We really appreciate it, and we're really hoping for the best for you in this new project, Disneyland Forward. And so, Drew, what was your take on this?
I don't know about you, but I was like totally blindsided by the whole thing. I mean, obviously it's like the perfect time to do it. Anaheim's kind of in the hole right now.
Yeah.
Taking out big loans, and Disney wants to expand, and this is a great way for them to get the city to rezone and then pay more taxes, which will help, Anaheim pay off their debt a little bit faster. And I mean, I think it's a win-win. That's the way I'm going to look at it. And gosh, like, this is the first time we've got something this big, like this expansion, since California Adventure. And like,
that's right.
I mean, it was definitely like California Adventure. A lot of people will agree was rushed a little bit, and it didn't really, pan out like we wanted to at the beginning. But with all the constant changes that we've been seeing, like I'm really excited, and I love the idea of both parks being expanded, California Adventure and Disneyland, and a new hotel resort. Like, that's so cool, and that's something that is super lacking here in California because of surrounding neighborhoods, basically.
That's right.
What did you think when you heard the news?
Yeah, I almost thought it was too good to be true when I think you were the first one to text me about it, and then I started looking up articles, and I was like, this can't be real, right? Like, they aren't. So I was baffled. Yeah. I was absolutely baffled. And it wasn't until the DisneylandForward.com came out and I actually was able to read from the horse's mouth, or should I say the mouse's mouth? Yeah. Actually what was going to happen and what their plans were. I was like, wow, they really want to change things. And I think, to your point, this is the biggest California expansion since DCA. But look at how many properties they have built or expanded on successfully since then, in the last 20 years. Yeah. I really do think that they know what they're doing at this point, and I am optimistic. I really am optimistic.
Me too. Like, I can't wait to see, like, I think the renderings that we're seeing right now are definitely not concrete. You can tell just they're incredibly pixelated and kind of vague on purpose, I think. But like, holy smokes, like, I'm so excited to like think about even just the pictures that they posted within the rendering were just like super amazing with all the different water features, and it looks like there's a mountain of some sort. Like, I saw like an elevation diagram that they had on there. I just like, do you think it's going to be like new lands? Because it's like all the attractions. I guess we should talk about the attractions that they kind of pitched. I think you have the list in front of you.
Yeah, so I think this shouldn't be surprising that the lands or attractions, depending on how they end up designating it, that they talked about for the expansion areas, wherever they end up going, on the Disneyland side, on the DCA side, or however they decide to do it. It shouldn't surprise anyone that these are not new areas. It's not going to be an announcement of a new land. Right. So we've got the Peter Pan, Tangled, and Frozen trio. We've got the Tron Light Cycle, which would be awesome. I don't know where the heck it would go. But they're adding in Zootopia, which I am thrilled about. I think that's going to be really great. And also Toy Story Land.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to really push is that, like, hey, Anaheim, we're not just going to put in a movie theater or like a restaurant or a lounge. Like, I mean, they are going to expand the parks. They're going to be spending a ton of money on development and really, like, I don't know where everyone's going to park, like, as far as the hotels and stuff. I did see like a couple structures that they were going to add or something like that. But I mean, I was also thinking, like, man, that means that the Disneyland Hotel and the Paradise Pier Hotel, which are like the Paradise Pier Hotel is like a value resort, is now going to be having a park view. Like, you're going to be able to look inside of the theme park. Like, it's a no brainer. Like, it makes total sense. Like, all the properties that they have are going to be within the same gates now, which is just like Florida.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of probably the things I was most excited about when I was looking at their diagram showing where these things would be, especially relative to the hotels, is that the hotels could have direct access to the parks in a way that they don't have in California. And I just think it would be so neat to have alternate entrances into these parks, a la the Grand Californian. I think that being able to integrate things like that is going to be really cool, and is certainly something that Disney is looking at with the Galactic Star Cruiser going directly into Galaxy's Edge in Orlando. So I think that type of immersion, I mean, whether it's like full story immersion or whether it's just Disney immersion and that you're Disney property seamlessly, you don't get a rental car, you aren't taking an Uber, you aren't outside of the the force field. You are inside of your vacation through and through.
Yeah, and like, if you haven't watched our first overrated, underrated episode, go watch it, because I don't know if you remember, Aaron, that was one of my underrated things that I chose. Like, the entrance
Absolutely.
from the Grand Californian directly into Grizzly Peak Airfield is just like, it's totally underrated. And so I'm glad that we have, I mean, it's not set in stone. Like, we don't know if this is actually going to happen, but like, the idea that, like, I could only imagine that if you're going to get a park view, you're also going to get a park entrance. Like, they want to make that as short of a walk as possible. Because, I mean, just in the past 12 months when I visited downtown Disney, like, walking from essentially behind AMC theaters to the main gate is a pretty big walk. So, like, walking from your hotel, which is at this, like, Paradise Pier, to the main gate, just to walk basically all the way back to your hotel for this new land, is like a long walk. So I really hope, I'm crossing my fingers that they have a park entrance, but we'll see.
Yeah, the incorporation of hotels into the properties, I think that's, I mean, I would actually say that that's less Orlando-ish and more Tokyo or Paris.
That's true.
Or Beijing, Hong Kong. Like, those are the places a little bit more modern that I think that they're modeling after, because they really like that tight integration. And so, yeah, that direct park access, I think, is going to be huge. And I mean, maybe it was purposeful, but they didn't really make mention of that. So I'm hoping that we're able to read between the lines and that we're right about this.
Yeah, like, it's really interesting when you look at the concept art, because some of it is incredibly vague, but then there's other details. Like, they drew out the walkways from the main parks to these extended areas for us. Like, they didn't have to do that. So I think they really wanted to let, like, us know that it's going to be a part of these parks. It's going to be an extension. Like, everyone was rumoring about, like, a third gate. Like, that's clearly in the diagram. It's going to be an extension of Disneyland and an extension of California Adventure. But, like, yeah, so, I mean, I have said in a previous episode that I'm not a huge fan of duplicating attractions on the same continent, so, like, or within the same country. So at least this time, since it sounds like we're going to be getting some duplicates, like, we're getting duplicates that are from Asia, you know, like, instead of just Florida, California getting the same stuff, it's like you have to travel far to experience it. So
in talking about those transition points, I actually came up with some ideas, some pitches on how to connect the parks or I should say how to connect the original park with the expansion of itself. So if you'll indulge me.
Yeah, totally.
So from what it looks like, again, this is all conjecture. Yeah. I wouldn't say that this is quite blue sky, because this could be very realistic.
Yeah.
What it would basically take is kind of like taking out Disneyland Drive and just making it all pedestrian and all inside of the gate.
Yeah.
That's not out of the question, but that would be big. But what it looks like is the Disneyland transition into its extension goes kind of from, like, where Pooh's Corner is in Critter Country.
Yeah.
And so my thought was this. They've already made the announcement that Splash Mountain is transitioning into a Princess and the Frog attraction. I don't think that this is hashing new ground, that it's been thought of that they should just take out Critter Country altogether and just make it a massive extension to New Orleans Square and make that kind of like a Bayou extension. I don't think that's new. I don't claim to have come up with that, but I do like the idea. That would then lead in quite nicely into the trio of Tangled and Frozen and Peter Pan.
Yeah.
That sort of animation with the 2D and 3D, that style of storytelling, the princess, sort of like, without saying it, it's kind of a storybook land sort of idea. It's not quite fantasy land, but it is very like in tune and very much catered towards kids and that type of storytelling.
Yeah.
I think that would work out really, really well. And where Pooh's Corner ends is just kind of like a round, a dead end. And so just blow that thing up and move on into that expansion.
Yeah.
That was my initial idea. And then using that upper area, I think that they have, Skull Rock is like a main feature of the Peter Pan area.
Yeah.
You could do quite a lot with the Tangled stuff. I think what they've got in Magic Kingdom is like the tower and some of the like, just kind of ambiance, the flora. And then the Frozen stuff, I think that's only concept art up to this point. But having the Arendelle and the mountain and all that kind of stuff would be very cool and transition pretty nicely from a New Orleans bayou.
Yeah, I like your idea. I was going to say to just extend Critter Country, because it seems like a lot of those movies do have like critters, and I like the idea of being led into this new expansion area with little footsteps of the different creatures that we know, or like the little critters that we know in these movies, like leading you down this path into this new area. But I think I agree with you. Like those 2D animation films fit definitely better with Princess and the Frog essentially being the transition area. Yeah, that's cool. I really dig that idea. That's neat.
So then I looked into the DCA expansion and where it sort of looked like that could work crossing Disneyland Drive. And it goes right from Pixar Pier. So Pixar Pier can transition perfectly into Toy Story Land. Like that to me was like an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right at Boardwalk Pizza.
Yep.
That basically is a straight shot. And then you'd go a straight shot over across Disneyland Drive and then be plopped right in front of the Paradise Pier Hotel, which I think would be great as a Toy Story themed hotel if you were really wanting to like do that full immersion.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I will say that gate that you're talking about, which is just to the left of Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta, like literally if you do a straight shot out that, I was looking on Google Maps, like you see the old tram route. Like it literally already does that kind of curve into that area. So, I mean, man, there's going to be, I love the idea of a Toy Story hotel though. I wonder how this is going to affect Paradise Pier Hotel though. Like obviously it's going to be an in-resort hotel. Like prices are going to go up and it's going to really bring it into the, into the experience.
Now, one other thing that I had thought of that kind of, I'm curious what your take on this would be, because I had a sort of solution, but it's not a great one. If you have a Peter Pan area in the Disneyland expansion area, which is our assumption, would you move the Peter Pan ride with it?
Yeah, I think what I would do if I were in this situation is I would leave Peter Pan exactly where it is, and I would focus more like with what Paris did on the Hook side. Like I would have the pirate ship, I would have Skull Rock. I would lean more into those types of themes. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I went the other direction and I thought, well, if you essentially like cut and paste the ride aspect, what could you do around the ride itself? And the thing that Peter Pan desperately needs is an overhaul to its queue because it is so tight. Making that ride compatible with FastPass would be very significant. And I don't know if you've been through the Magic Kingdom queue, but it's really incredible.
Okay.
There's a couple of cool shadow projector based like interactive games where you basically see Peter's shadow on the wall and you can wave and he'll wave back, or you will see like a projection of Tinkerbell and you can like poke it, and there's all these like really neat little things that they do as you go through the entire house, the entire Darling house, which is really neat.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
But just by nature of it being larger, that's really all I would need to be considered an upgrade. Yeah. Because having more space in that queue means that you're going to be able to have better access. That line itself is original to that ride. So it is. Yeah. It can pose some problems and deserves some upgrades, just the line itself. And then I thought, okay, well now I've got an empty space with primo real estate in Fantasyland next to the castle entrance. And so we've got a Sleeping Beauty walkthrough. We could do a Beauty and the Beast ride in its place, or we could just kind of take the Sleeping Beauty idea and make that an attraction. I don't know that would work really great, but it could work.
Yeah, and that really is like prime real estate right there. Like, I think Snow White and what is it called now? The Enchanted
Wish?
I think it got really lucky that they were able to make some additions to it and refurbish it instead of just pulling it out, because that is like quite literally prime real estate. I mean, yes, they could have just pulled it out. And there were some rumors before they redid it that it was going to get pulled out, along with Pinocchio, to be replaced with something else. So, so obviously Disney kind of announced like all these things on their Disneyland Forward website that they could potentially be doing. Obviously, none of it's set in stone. Were there any IPs that you really wish were represented in that list? Like, I definitely came up with one that I if I had it my way, I would have added this movie with these attractions. Like, did you have anything like that?
I had a really big idea.
Okay.
And so I'm going to save the big idea. But what I thought of as this isn't actually an IP, but I think that with the expansion and with more territory and with where I see a lot of entertainment and storytelling going, I think that Disney would be foolish to ignore the idea of doing a VR-based attraction. And I think probably they're going to do that with a Marvel property at some point. I took the opposite sort of direction as far as thrill goes, and I thought, how cool would it be to be in a VR-based attraction where it's an entire history of Disneyland, where you basically would position this ride adjacent to the Disneyland Hotel, and you would sit in a little, potentially you wouldn't really even need to move.
Right.
It would just be sort of a stationary, but sort of like one of those 4D theater seats almost.
Yeah.
But to be able to put on a set of goggles and sit in a people mover vehicle while you go around 1960 Tomorrowland, or you then transition into a Skyway bucket, and you transition into some of the older iterations of the train or of the monorail, and to be able to be told a story of, essentially like the very tech forward version of like a documentary style YouTube video about Walt.
Yeah.
That's really what I was thinking would be like super cool. And they could really dive into the idea of like the vintage history of Disneyland. And that could even be its own tiny little 1 or 2 attraction little plot.
Yeah, that's kind of
that expansion area.
If I had to make an adjustment, so like in our Star Tours episode, when I said I'd move it and like be able to give huge Disney fans the way to ride vintage Disneyland rides, I think a mix between that and like kind of Jimmy Fallon's Race Through New York with like the moving audience, is that what you're thinking? I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah,
like not the intense, ability to, but like
no, not moves. Intense at all.
Yeah,
it would be. It would give you the sensations of all of those rides and all of those, just giving you that sort of setting, that time and place. You could start all the way from it being in Orange Grove, pump in that that well-known Disney orange scent that they love to do, and then take it all the way into modern Disney. I think that would be a really cool, compelling way to be telling stories, to be honoring Disney's history, and also evoking the idea that things are going to change. We're always going to be improving. This is never going to be a finished project.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think that's like a cool attraction to visit when you're staying at a historical place like the Disneyland Hotel, right? Like that's where the history fits really well, right? Because you're not in that theme park yet. Like you know what you're getting into, but you're at the hotel, and it because they always have at hotels, there's always like something on the wall that explains the history. But like, I like your idea, like just bringing it to be more interactive. Like you check in, if your room is waiting to be, done up, you can go and check out the history on Disneyland before you go and spend your whole vacation there. So I think that's really cool. Actually, I think that's a great attraction. Back to the original question.
Yeah. Tell me the IP direction that you went.
Yeah, I'm just really disappointed that there's no representation for Moana. Like, I really love Moana, and like the first thing that I saw before I even read the article was like, oh my gosh, there's a ton of water, there's a ton of lush tropical plants, it looks very green, it looks very alive. Like, this one of these has got to be Moana. And I was so excited, and then none of them were Moana. So anyway, I think we'll have to do an episode where we think of an attraction that we would put in that area. If we had it our way. Spoiler alert, mine's going to be something Moana based, because I love that movie.
The only Moana thing that they could have announced is the walkthrough attraction that they have in Epcot coming soon. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to announce they are not going to announce the very first Moana dark ride in this theoretical sort of political plea.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I don't think that you need to be in despair over a lack of representation. I think it's inevitable that we're going to get some Moana love on the West Coast. And
because they didn't really announce too much about the new resort that they're going to be building in the Toy Story lot, maybe that'll be something Moana related. I think that would be really cool too, because there was a lot of water, and it kind of looked like a small beachy village. So, I mean, that's also, I have some ideas about that. Would you like to hear my ideas about?
Yeah.
So I think the Toy Story lot, for people who don't know, is actually tucked away. It's the old cast member lot behind Garden Walk. And so when I was looking at the map, I just couldn't help but notice that if Disney turned the Toy Story lot into like a hotel resort, the only thing between that and the Pumbaa lot, which also was the original plan to lead directly into the parks, is the Garden Walk. So like, if I had it my way, like, I would imagine Disney would eventually be interested in buying the failed outdoor mall, which is Garden Walk, and using it like a Disney Springs. Like, I just think that would be so cool. I think this whole project, I really get the feeling that someone was like, hey, we've really struck gold here with Disney Springs and incorporating everything into one property. And I just think if they made a resort at Toy Story lot that led through Garden Walk and turned it into like a Disney Springs type of outdoor mall, and then it led you to the Pumbaa lot, it would transition you directly onto Harbor Boulevard where the main entrance is. So like, man, I think that'd be so cool. And I, as far as bridging all of those streets, the Garden Walk is already elevated above because there's parking below it. So I don't think it would be that difficult. This is all huge, right? This is going to cost billions of dollars. It's probably going to take like a decade for it to get done, just like it did California Adventure. Because when you look at Google Maps, that space, both at Toy Story lot and behind the Disneyland Hotel, is enormous. It's like 2/3 the size of all of California Adventure. So it's going to be a huge project. So I really hope it gets passed with Anaheim, because I think it would turn Disneyland into like a 2 to 3 day park visit to like an entire week visit, I think.
Which is exactly what they want. And it should be what Anaheim wants.
It should be. It should be. Absolutely. They should want people to forget about Knott's Berry Farm completely, forget about Universal Studios, just spend your entire week at Disneyland. I think, I mean, we've obviously seen an uptick in attendance in the past like 5 years, right? Obviously not this past year, but like 5 years where like there's no downtime in the parks anymore. Like annual pass holders, there's 1 million annual pass holders. There's tons of business to be made. There's a lot of inefficiencies. So I'm glad that someone like took a step back and said like, we have a lot of property, we have a lot of space, and we have a drawer full of really great ideas. Like, let's do something with it. And this is just the perfect time because it's, like I said, a win-win.
Yeah, I think the closest thing to like the infrastructure that would be required is kind of like all the Vegas bridges and elevators and escalators. That happened without Disney being involved. So I'm sure that Disney could find a way to do it. They have the means, they have the bank account, they have the creativity and the engineering.
And I'd like to remind our viewers too, like between Tortilla Joe's at Downtown Disney and the Lego store, that is a bridge. Like where they sell corn dogs, that is a bridge. If you the next time you're there, go over towards Jazz Kitchen and look over the edge. That is Disneyland Drive, and you would never know. So I think they could really, really nail it. I've heard a lot of people saying like, oh, they should tunnel it or they should go underneath the road. But realistically, I think if it's all Disney property and they don't need that road anymore, I can imagine seeing it just as an entry to Paradise Pier Hotel and Grand Californian Hotel, and just cutting it off kind of at the structure. So we'll see. It's all very exciting.
I have my big idea still left. And
okay, should we both do our big ideas? I'll do mine if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
I was going to say, we've been really focused in on the scope of reality. We've talked about how to sort of use the things that Disney has already talked about, and although they are not set in stone, they are announcements of things that are likely to happen. So now I think we can do our favorite thing and talk about what is extremely unlikely to happen, but would be so mind-blowingly cool.
Okay, let's do it. I'm excited.
So my idea pulls an old idea out of the wastebasket, and it is a West Coast Epcot.
Yeah.
The amount of space that they're talking about would not accommodate this, but if it were a third gate situation, however many decades down the road that would be the real mind blower.
Yeah.
But I'm going to imagine that that's what they're doing right now, and so here's my thoughts.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Obviously, Epcot is going to be a big celebration of the countries around the world, a permanent World's Fair. I have elected to not include anything about a future world or anything on that side of things, just for sake of expediting the pitch a bit.
Okay.
I've also elected to not have an America Pavilion, because if you want America, go to California Adventure.
Yep.
That's your celebration of like where you are currently.
Good point.
The countries that I have in my version of Western Epcot: Mexico, Japan, China, France, Great Britain. Those are all, and Italy. Those are all originals. Mm-hmm. But and Canada. I'm sorry, Miss Canada. Not just America's hat. I would replace Morocco with India.
Yeah, okay.
And I would replace Norway with Australia. The reason I would choose India is that then we can get into Jungle Book territory, which would be really fun for like attractions and storytelling. Yeah. Also, India is just an awesome, great place.
Totally. Food's delicious too.
Don't think I didn't go there. And then for Australia, I just love Australia, but realizing that Norway is very much linked to Frozen, and Frozen will likely already have a presence in its little storybook land style area.
Right.
So we don't need to rehash Norway. We can do something new. So that's kind of like the overall. And let me get some of the obvious things out of the way. France would have Ratatouille. Mary Poppins would be in Great Britain. I already mentioned Jungle Book would be in the India area.
Yep.
And then the things that I wanted to add into this imaginary Epcot. Give me a Coco ride. Give me a Coco attraction in Mexico. Totally. I think that is just ready to happen.
Yep.
Next would be in Italy. There's a little movie coming out called Luca, and that takes place on the Italian Riviera. Now, we haven't seen the movie, so if you're watching this a year from now and you're like, Luca was a terrible movie, why would you make a write about it? Because the movie hasn't come out yet and we don't know better.
Yeah,
and if it's awesome, then we're calling our shot from a mile away, and I think that would be pretty sweet. So, I don't know, the trailer seems exciting. It's about sea monsters. It could be super cool. So, I'm saying Luca in the Italy area.
Okay.
What have I missed? Okay, and then my next two, both in the sort of Asia, like macro area. Mm-hmm. So we've got Japan. And for Japan, I want Japan to have a Mount Fuji roller coaster styled kind of after Expedition Everest. I think that would be absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I think that that the sort of Disneyland Resort, the West Coast, deserves another mountain.
Yep, I agree.
And I think that should be it. I think Mount Fuji would be perfect for that. And I left off one country. This would be sort of like in my thinking, it would be like a little bit of a catch-all. But it's actually one that you pitched in a previous episode. I want Kumandra. I want Kumandra in there. And I want everything that you talked about in Kumandra to be involved in this pavilion as a way to do a lot more celebration of Pacific Islander cultures that aren't necessarily recognized in just Japan or China.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's super cool.
I know that there's like a smaller, like sort of generally African nation area. I thought it'd be cool to be a little bit more specific and go maybe to Egypt. Egypt has rich culture, rich history, and also delicious food. You could be sort of more broad and say it's North Africa, but I thought an Egypt pavilion would also be really exciting.
Yeah. And what did you say you were going to do for Australia?
I don't have a specific idea, although I think that either a circle vision would be really cool, but we've also got Finding Nemo.
Yeah, that's the first thing. I literally was writing that down as you were talking. I was like, you got to visit P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Way, right?
Yeah, P. Sherman 42. I mean, yeah, you get your teeth done in Disneyland. It'd be perfect.
We'll have a Darla meet and greet where she just shakes you to death.
Exactly. That's what I've been dying for.
No, I love that. And I love the idea of mixing in and blending Kumandra, which is a fictional land, but has representation for multiple countries within the World Showcase. I'm surprised they haven't done, a little bit more of that. I think the closest that we've gotten is the Frozen ride, right? Like that's kind of just it.
Yeah.
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But.
No, I think that's basically it. Just that Arendelle kind of lives in Norway vaguely, and so you're in Norway and then you're in Arendelle, and it's just kind of that's okay. Ratatouille, I guess, would be a second one.
That's true.
Although it's like within the story that you're in Paris, like it's not you're in a French restaurant somewhere in the countryside. It's like you are in Paris. You're in the City of Lights. You're doing it there. So if you're in the France area and you're, of course, seeing the Eiffel Tower and all the Parisian imagery, yes, Remy fits right in.
Yeah, and I think you're right about the Coco attraction. I think that's coming to Mexico.
I hope so.
I hope so too. I think it would be a huge missed opportunity if they didn't do a Coco ride, and I think actually a water boat cruise ride is a perfect vehicle to tell you the story of Coco. And it's it's so rich in culture, and it tells us and teaches us about Mexican culture, and it's just really great. So I hope that they do that. I love the idea of adding it in a California theme park where we have very rich Mexican culture here.
Yes.
And I like the food, man. That would be insane. Yep. That would be insane.
I mean, think about all of the great Disney Food and Wine events that you have on the West Coast, and then turn them to 11, because that's what this would be. This would be a year-round food festival.
Yeah.
That is always at the top of its game. I mean, my fiance and I will go to Epcot just to eat and drink and leave. There is even a ticket that you can buy that's a 4 p.m. and later ticket where you can go to the park for like 2-3 hours and it's like $45 or something. The idea is you're not going to ride the rides. You're not going to see the shows. You're going to eat and to drink. So they're basically just charging you kind of like a Touch of Disney ticket, but you can do it at Epcot whenever you want.
That's awesome. We should do that. I want to do that when I go.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Oh, it is on the menu, buddy. Don't worry. That was my big idea. Give me that Westcott. Make that happen.
Yeah. So that's interesting that you thought of Westcott, because I thought of something different in Disney's history, and that is Port Disney. So a lot of you who don't know, Port Disney was an idea that happened a long time ago where Disney was planning on building a Disney Sea area. It's basically the original Disney Sea. And they were going to do it in Long Beach, where the Queen Mary is currently docked, and use the Queen Mary as a hotel. And it was all going to be nautical themed. And so for me, having the opportunity to go to Tokyo and kind of experience what should have been in Long Beach for us, I want that here. I want that here in the park. And there's a particular structure in Disney Sea that is the centerpiece of it all, and that's the volcano. So it's really funny that you want another mountain, and I essentially want another mountain, except my mountain is a volcano, and that's where I would add in the Moana ride. Now, obviously, if you've been to Tokyo and you've taken the ride that's at the base of the volcano, it's called Journey to the Center of the Earth, and it's kind of a mixture between, I would compare it to like Indiana Jones and Radiator Springs Racers. Like, it's kind of a dark ride and then it goes quickly. But for me, obviously with Moana, it's all based around water. But I wanted some thrill as well because it's in the center of the volcano. And I would call that ride Moana's Journey to Fiti. And so I want to focus it on, she's already decided she's going to steal a boat from the village. She's going to take off on her journey. And I wanted to focus on the scene where she gets basically caught in a storm and gets thrown off of her boat a bunch of times. And it's just like, it's a harrowing journey. It's really, there's lots of lightning happening. It's raining. It's wet. There's not a lot of stability. And I want to base the attraction actually off of a ride system that's not currently at Disney. And Aaron, have you ever been to SeaWorld San Diego?
Oh, it's been decades.
I was going to say, it's been a long time for me too.
Yeah.
But there's a ride there called Journey to Atlantis. And it has nothing to do with Disney's Atlantis. It just has everything to do with like the original, myth of Atlantis. But the ride vehicle is really cool. And I'll just do a quick explanation so that you have a better understanding and have some more context as to what I'm talking about. It's essentially a boat ride. Imagine something like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like a mix between Pirates, Splash Mountain, and a roller coaster with a section in the middle that has an elevator. I know it sounds really crazy, but it starts off as a boat ride with a drop, and then you get pushed into an elevator, and then the elevator actually sways, and it takes 2 carts at a time, and it takes you up to like 6 stories tall, where the ride then becomes a roller coaster. It is so cool. And I remember the first time I went on it, I was absolutely blown away with how neat and unexpected all of the things that happened were, so I think that's a perfect vessel for a ride like Moana, where I like the idea of it being a water ride that kind of tells you a story. A storm hits, you get lifted up through this elevator, and like inside the elevator tunnel, there's projection. So I like the idea of it feeling like you're getting lifted up by like a swell of a wave, right? And then once you get to the top, it becomes a roller coaster, and you ride that wave all the way down with a big splash at the end. So I like that. Obviously, your goal would be to restore the heart of Te Fiti, which is at the end of the movie. So it would end with like this, this glorious indoor, water scene, like with the tropical forest and the mountains and the volcano. Obviously, the volcano has to erupt like every hour with flamethrowers and stuff, because that would just be, why wouldn't you? And then
it's right there.
I love the idea of having a show on the volcano at night. And the show that I want to do would actually be tied in kind of with Pixar. So I think my Moana ride would probably be on the California Adventure side, where all the newer animation stuff's happening. Like, give all the classic animation stuff to Disneyland. That's where it belongs. That's where it fits in. But I like the idea of having the volcano coming to life at night, kind of like the Tree of Life at Animal Kingdom, but using the Pixar short I Lava You.
I love that one. Yes.
It's so great. If you've never heard it, makes me cry every time. It's really amazing. I bought a ukulele from Hawaii when I went just so I can learn how to play the song. Maybe one day I'll play it for you guys. But I love the idea of having like a water show with projections, and it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster, even though it's a really short, like it's literally a Pixar short. But I love that. And that's something that resonated with me when I was a kid. Like, my family would go to Las Vegas and we would go and see, I can't remember what hotel it was, but it has like a volcano and it erupts like every 30 minutes. Like, I thought that was just so cool. And I love the idea of like kind of Disneyfying that experience and making that volcano come to life at night, like the Tree of Life. I think that would just be so cool. You never get to see a volcano erupt, ever. So, to me, I think that's really neat. I know the Rainforest Cafe in Disney Springs kind of does like...
They've got like misters that come out of it and some lights.
So not nearly as cool. But
no.
I will say, when the volcano erupts in Tokyo Disney Sea, it is pretty spectacular. And I just love the idea of having like the projections of lava coming down. Anyway, so that's my idea. And I really hope that they, like I said, do more stuff with Moana, because there's a lot of stuff you could do. There's so many iconic scenes in that movie that you could pick from. I hope they do it. That's my idea.
Yeah. I mean, they've got great music to choose from. They've got great characters to choose from.
Yeah.
I can just imagine Maui kind of like giving you guff for being caught in a swell or in a tornado or whatever happened to befall you as the hero of this little journey. I think that'd be hilarious. And then my favorite character from Moana, Hey Hey.
Yeah, that was kind of like the struggle that I was having, right? Because you've got Hey Hey, and then I can't remember the little pig's name, but it's really cute. So like
Pua?
Yeah, you're right, Pua. Yeah, it's Pua. So like those are literally two critters that are in the movie that could help you kind of segue into Critter Country. But like I said, I think the newer animation stuff should probably be in California Adventure, and then that, like you said, the 2D animation stuff fits a lot better in the classic Disneyland.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope they do something, because when I went to Hawaii and I went to the Aulani Resort, their focus is more on history, like Hawaiian history and culture, and not really being in your face like Disney attraction. So I would leave Aulani the way it is. It's gorgeous. It's an amazing resort. And I would just really push Moana hard in these new areas. Once we get a little bit closer, obviously we're going to be coming out with a lot of videos in regards to this as they roll out more information. But this is just such an exciting time to be here at Disney after being closed for a year, and for them to say like, hey, we want to do this expansion. I'm really excited. Like it gets me feeling like I felt when I was a little kid and Disney California Adventure opened. You've been spending your entire life going to just these parks within these gates, and we've seen things get changed over and reimagined, but to actually have it extend past, it's like, it's really cool. I'm very excited.
And I think that it brings an optimism that Disney has been missing being closed and not even being open for a food event. It brings an optimism to the Disney fan base in California that has been sorely missing. Yeah. To the point where on the Disney website, you can sign up as a supporter, and you can opt in to be listed as a named supporter to basically make the case to Anaheim, and you could even opt for the ability to like talk at a local town hall. Wow. And to like kind of like give your argument. Yeah, this is right on their website now. You can opt in as a volunteer to be involved. And so they really are reaching out to the community. They really do want this type of project to happen. Whether it's in the forms that Drew and I talked about, that remains to be seen. Josh, tomorrow, we know you're still watching. Give us a call. We're ready to give our 2 cents.
Forward this video to Bob. Both Bobs.
Yes, both Bobs. Yeah. We're eagerly awaiting.
Awesome.
Drew, I had a great time talking about this. I can't wait for this project to continue growing and for our conjecture to continue getting more ridiculous or maybe more refined. I'm not really sure. But in our next episode, you know what we're going to talk about? Absolutely nothing to do with Disney.
That's right.
We are doing an all Universal video. All Universal.
It's going to be really great. I'm looking forward to doing that. It's a fun topic for sure. In the meantime, make sure to like this video, and we want to hear from you guys. So leave a comment down below. What would you like to see in this new expanded area? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think the renderings are blue sky renderings, or do you think some of this stuff's actually going to happen? Of the list, which attractions, or which IPs would you like to see actually built in this new expanded area? And then remember, you can also listen to us on the go. We're on Apple Music and Spotify. Until next time, we'll see you soon, and we'll see you back at the Sandbox. Bye, guys.